All right. This part of the story is going to be somewhat difficult for me to tell. And that's mostly because the time frames are hard for me. I know people who can talk about something that happened in their life and know the dates. I'm just not like that. It's hard for me to connect the dates with the events. And so my timeline is kind of mashed up for the next part of this story. I'm just going to tell what I remember. So, I talked about how Brian, put that weirdo on me, so that girl Lisa, who was all over Brian, could get a break, right? Well, talking about these things and remembering these memories brings up feelings. And so I did recently send Brian a message because of that. And I want to read what I sent him. Okay. Oh my God. Not prepared. Here we go. I said, Brian, I'm so pissed I ever allowed that weirdo in my apartment to fuck with me while you were gone. Also, Lisa could get a break. Yet another scumbag who shit all over me using my fucking kindness. What if he tried RAing me? Ugh, I wish you would have been more thoughtful and protective of me, and that's what hurts the most. I wanted your protection so many times, and I thought you cared enough for me that your instincts would be to shield me and cherish me. But it wouldn't be the only time I'd feel like that, would it? And it wouldn't be. It definitely wouldn't be. And also, I want to say, I understand that telling this story and, relaying what happened is opening myself up to some criticism or judgment. But I just want to say, believe me, I understand what I allowed and accepted. I understand I made poor decisions and bad choices. I know that. But, victim blaming, it doesn't wash away the sins. It doesn't. It's just, there were reasons why I was in that. There was reasons why I let those things happen. There's reasons why I, made the choices I did. And a lot of it had to do with, my addiction and my illness, my lack of, self-worth and self-confidence and everything. I just, feeling like death was around the corner, like nothing mattered. I know I've already said this, but that, can definitely change what a person accepts and what they do. And it definitely happened for me. But I'm not, I just don't accept victim blaming to excuse things. I just don't. And Brian has tried to do that in other ways. You'll find out later on. Okay. So there were other things that happened in that apartment. There was another ex of his that he left me to hang out with other people. That would happen a few times. And there were other little things, but I mainly told what I wanted to be told from that time period. So he was on probation. He ends up going to jail. So yet again, I'm alone. And this time I ended up somehow losing that downstairs that I was renting. And that's when, if you heard my other story, my other video, that I was on the streets crying, wondering where I was going to go. And someone, virtually a stranger, took me in and helped me. And actually, I just recently thought of him and sent this message to him. Why is it not the right place? Okay. It's doing it again. Wow. Sorry. Hey, you. Just wanted to thank you for coming to my rescue and taking me in off the streets of Westbrook with tears down my face. So, and I did appreciate that. I don't know how long I stayed there, maybe a few months. And I was riding with Brian. Me and Brian were connected. He was riding me. and I wrote to him. And then but while he was gone, I did have some rough patches, mainly due to drugs. Like one time while he was in jail, I connected with his ex, Lauren, probably for drugs. I don't remember the details. All I remember is I read one of his letters to her. And in that letter, he's professing his love for me and saying he wants to get a nice place when he's out. And she cried. And I asked her why she was crying. And she told me that, like, in the beginning of our relationship, one of those days that Brian had gone to see her without me, she was alone. And Brian said to her, "Oh, you're alone? Well, you're going to get it." And that they had sex. He denies it. He says that she probably cried because she was, upset about him professing his love to me in that letter. But, what do I think? I think it happened. I mean, I already knew he had a connection with her still then. And it sounded, the way she described it, sounded like something he would do and something he would say. It just did. And, people cheating in their new relationships with their exes, it happens. I did it years and years before, with my son's father. I cheated on someone with him in the very beginning of our relationship. I came clean about it, but anyways, I would think yes. If I had to say, did it happen? I'd say yes. But of course, Brian denies it, which he denies almost everything, no matter what. But anyways, so that was one of the things. Also, I did, have contact with some of his friends. It was a drug thing, and then I did go and be with a couple of his friends and other people. That guy had a girlfriend and everything, and they held me, I can't say they kidnapped me. They just held me hostage. They wouldn't let me go. I don't know. It was weird, but like I said, drugs, but then my aunt let me stay with her, and I did a program with other women. I was living in this little house with other sober women who were trying to get sober, and I was waiting for Brian. I wrote to him while I was in there. And then when my program ended and I felt like I should have heard from Brian by now, I had the thought he must have went to Lisa's house. So I called Lisa's house, and sure enough, he answered the phone. I still had some clothes of his and shit, but I was just disgusted. Wow, you knew you could have an opportunity with her, so you decided to take it. And he says it's because people told him that I went around and had sex with a bunch of his friends. That's not true. And why would you not talk to me about it first before you decided to go jump into another woman? Really just going to take their word for it and pretend I don't exist and just go be with someone else? Okay. Anyway, because he was with Lisa now, apparently, he was at her house, I decided to have a relationship with someone else. I had another guy that was after me, who I had kept at bay up to that point. But now that I knew there was nothing to wait for, I just went with this other guy. And I don't feel like I need to get into that too much. I'll just tell you that, to me, this guy, without barely knowing me, I felt like he was in love with me, which to me was kind of made me just feel weird. But strangely, within a month or two, that guy turned my heart into mush. I don't know how, but I did have a little I felt like I loved the guy, but he wasn't a great guy, and eventually it ended. No, it didn't go on for long. It just was a quick, fast, passionate thing that ended quickly. And by that time, Brian had enough of Lisa, which I knew was going to happen. Knowing the little that I knew of her, I knew that he would not be able to take her for long, that he would definitely get sick of her. And he did. It didn't take long. Months. Okay, so now we're both kind of in the ends of the relationships we had when we, weren't together now. And he's calling me back, wanting me back. Just, being really sweet and just, trying to get me back. So I went back with him, and I remember we were driving at one point, and that Lisa girl was losing her mind that he'd stopped seeing her, and now he was back with me. And she said to him that she was going to beat herself up and call the cops and tell them that he did it to her. So I told him, under my breath, I said, tell her you're recording this. And he did. And that made her lose her mind even more. And then I will never forget this. He said to her, I don't love you. I love Marisa. So that was the end of that. And then, what did we do? We ended up, that would be the last time that we ever had like a breakup. Like once we were together at that point, we've been together ever since. And the only reason we had really parted was because he went to jail. I mean, I have no idea how things would have rolled out if that hadn't happened, but it did. And, that was the main reason why we weren't together for that period of time. But anyways, we were back together again, and we ended up renting like a room in a building in Portland. It was just one room, and we were doing okay. Brian was on like getting sober wagon. I wasn't quite there yet. We weren't really on the same page, but very quickly I did get on the page because I got pregnant with our first son. And Brian had taught, like, I remember when we first, like, within the first week or two of being together, we had sex once, and he said, I got you pregnant. And that was like a red flag to me. Like, really? He wants to get me pregnant? But he did. I think he did. He wanted to have more babies and, like, start over again with children. Which is a nice thing about Brian. He loves children, and he just is. I happen to be the lucky one that he got pregnant, but yeah, that we were together. It was like the summer of 2011. Okay. And at that time, there was like right around the time, I don't know how we ended up being with these 3 other girls that were connected with him, but this is just a side story. We went to the beach, and Brian was at the water, and these 3 girls right in front of me, like I wasn't even there, started talking about Brian and how awesome he was, and just gushing about him without including me in the conversation. And I was pregnant with his child sitting there, his girlfriend. That's the kind of shit that would happen. A lot. Then we also, right after I got pregnant, we lost a good friend. And that guy's, the man who passed away, he had a sister who also had a thing with Brian, like a little thing in the past. Like they had never done anything, but they just had this little thing between them. And even though she had a boyfriend, for some reason, anytime she needed anything, she'd be calling my boyfriend. If she needed her window fixed, a lock changed, or just whatever, you name it, she was calling Brian for. And he wouldn't say no. But at that point, I was pregnant with his child, and I finally was like, I felt confident enough to say, no, we're not doing that. She can have her boyfriend help her with that shit. You don't need to go running anytime any other woman calls for some shit. No. But, and I will tell one other little story about the beginning of my pregnancy with Brody. When we were living in that one room, we were in the next room, which was a neighbor's room, and Brian was talking to this guy. He was our neighbor. And I sat behind Brian, and this is about abuse, so just a warning, it might be triggering. I told Brian I was hungry, and he acknowledged that in some way, and then just continued talking. And I don't know how long it had been. I mean, obviously minutes had passed. I don't know how many, but I said it again. I was like, Brian, I'm hungry. And within an instant, he snapped, he turned around, he body slammed me onto the bed. I'm pregnant with his child. And he did that. And then he smushed my head onto the bed and said, don't fucking interrupt me, something like that. And it scared me, it shocked me, and it shocked the neighbor. The minute he got me alone, he said to me, get the fuck away from him. And it wouldn't be the only person. One of Brian's long ago girlfriends, like sisters, messaged me and said he was a dangerous person to be with and not good to women and I shouldn't be with him. But of course I ignored the warnings. I was pregnant with his kid. And he did have this. He had that reputation, but he also had the hero complex where he wanted to be everyone's hero, everyone's savior, big-hearted teddy bear, you know. But this is what I used to say. I would say, he's a teddy bear, but don't poke the teddy bear, because if you poke him, he's going to turn grizzly. And I wasn't kidding. Like, Brian could turn grizzly real fast. Real fast. And did I feel like I was walking on eggshells at times? Absolutely. Because sometimes just something I said or how I said it, he would take the wrong way and it would make him angry. So, you know, it definitely affected how I behaved around him. But yeah, he did that. Then we moved into another, like, it was a little bit bigger than the one room, but this had a little tiny side kitchen and a bathroom there. It wasn't a communal bathroom, it was our own bathroom. And I was pregnant, and we would just, I put an end to that. The sister of the man who died, I put an end to that. I'm like, Brian, no, we're about to have a kid, and you don't need to be like the fall guy for everything this girl needs. Have her boyfriend fucking do it. Like, I'm tired of having to, like, you know, worry about this shit for her. I mean, I know she lost her brother and everything. That's, you know, really sad and everything. But it doesn't mean you're now her, like, you know, ring, ring, ring. Oh, I'm coming running. You know what I mean? Like, just that kind of shit. Just so aggravating. And he seemed to have a lot of that, you know, like, for different people. Because of the past. Because of their connection. Because of who this person was. He felt a need to go and help or do or whatever. And just, you know, it gets old. But, all right, coming up. Now, there was another woman that Brian, had a very strong connection with, in the past. I think they connected in the past, and kind of like me and him, they never, like, did anything about it for whatever reason. But this was a special person to him. Let's call her Maureen for the purposes of telling the story. Maureen, okay, he definitely told me about her and, you know, how she was this great person, and he actually wanted me to meet her. But I don't know when. I wish I could tell you when. I don't know when, but I, at some point, found Maureen's and Brian's messages to each other. And this was right as I was pregnant, right as I was just pregnant for Brody. And this is what they said to each other. Okay, he starts. Okay, I have so much stuff I want to tell you. Life's been a pretty crazy ride. My girl is so wacky jealous and spazzes. I haven't called because she's right up my ass, but I will soon. With, like, a face. I don't know what he's talking about. I had no jealous spazzes. No, I didn't. That was bullshit on his part. Moving on. She responds, I thought it might be something like that. That's too bad. You have to deal with that. I'm sorry. People always have either been jealous or confused where you and I have been concerned. I was not jealous. I had what she wanted. Not the other way around. So who's jealous? Wasn't me. I feel a connection with you. Always have. I don't think that will change. When I saw you on here, I about flipped. Just take your time and call as soon as you get the chance. Take care of yourself. I look forward to talking. Then he says, thanks for understanding. It will be worth the wait, I'm sure. Another smile, wink face. She says, you're welcome. It will be, definitely. She doesn't have to worry about me, though. I am a married woman after all. Smile, smile. Hope to talk soon, friend. I wasn't worried about her. All right. Then he says, she's just crazy, and it just makes me miserable. I've asked him, did you really feel like that? Because this is news to me. I was crazy? I mean, how was I crazy? All I can say is, you must have done something that made me say that. Really? Then what? What had I done? I don't know. Of course you don't know, because I hadn't done anything. I was newly pregnant with your child. Okay. Then she says, I'm so sorry, Brian. It shouldn't be like that. Life is too short. I don't know why, but I was getting a feeling that it was like that for you. It just seems like that. Like she is always trying to be right there. Where else should I have been? We were together, living together, about to have a child. So where else should I have been but right there with him? Maureen? Where? He says, my own fault for putting up with it. She says, how long you guys been together? Brian, I wish I could have found you sooner. Honey, I wish you could have too. I wish you could have too. Then you could have, played the role for him. I wish it too, bitch. I do. He says, a little over a year. But I went to jail for 3 months. She fucked all kinds of friends. So I left her. And she needed help one time. I felt bad and she snuck back in. I'm a dummy. Total lies. Total lies. He was the one who came asking to be back with me. I didn't need help with anything one time. That was a complete lie. And that was something that I would notice Brian would do. Like, I would see him be there and listen to him talking to someone and him telling some stupid little lie and thinking, why would he lie about that? Why? That's part of who he is. He just does that. And this is exactly what this was. That was a complete lie. He was the one coming to me. I didn't fuck all of his friends. She responds, oh, Brian, you deserve way better than that. You don't need someone who fucks other dudes while you're in friggin' jail. I would never, ever have cheated on you if we had been together. I would have visited you all of the time, too. It kills me to think you're with someone like that. Okay. Also, to post pics of herself half naked on Facebook, those should just be special for you, those pics. It's like she's screaming for anyone to check her out and ask her for a fuck. I feel bad for you. Okay, let me stop right there. These half-naked pictures of me on Facebook, Brian posted those pictures. Brian. Not me. Brian. And he did that, obviously, because he was trying to show off what he had. Me. But, of course, Brian was not going to correct her. Because, she just shit all over me for it. So he would, if he was going to admit to her that he was the one who did that, she'd have to retract that shit. She just shit all over me. And she'd probably feel like an idiot. So he says, ha. She asks, what do you mean, ha? He says, ha just feels better than wah. She says, aw, Brian, you're not wahing. You're just venting. You can always vent to me. Please know that. This woman did not know me at all. The only thing she knew about our lives was what we posted on Facebook. So maybe she, she thought I was always trying to be right there. Maybe I shouldn't have been in every one of his posts or commented on them or liked them or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I should have been off doing something else with some other guy as I was pregnant with his kid. Also, and I could get a picture of this, but I don't need to. She told Brian that she was getting a divorce because her husband had lied to her. And I just thought it was so so fucking ridiculous that she's getting divorced because she was being lied to, and then she's buying all of these lies from Brian about me. And I asked him, like, was that the truth? Like, why would you say that shit to her? Because in my memory, we were doing that was the best we had ever been. We were happy to be having this new child. As far as I knew, you were not miserable. So why would you present to her that you were? And why would you let her think that I was like, screaming for attention on Facebook and basically a slut? Why would you let her think that instead of correcting her? It just... Marisa can get the shit end of the stick, and whoever Brian's trying to impress at the moment, that's the one who'll get something that they will want to pity him for, or compliments, or what. It's just that same fucking continuing thing. This is getting kind of long, but it does not end with Maureen there, because I actually, at some point after reading those, and it was after Brody had been born, I did reach out to her, and that'll be where I start the next chapter. This one's getting kind of long, so I'll leave it right there. Till next time.